Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya
Asmadacharya
Paryantam Vande
Paryantam
Guru
Vande Guru
Paramparam
Paramparam.
Om Sahana
Om
Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahanau
Bhavatu Sahanau
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karvavahai
Karavavai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Mahavidvishavahai
Mahavidvishavahai.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti Shanti.
Shanti. So let's chant the first two mantras of Kenopanishad, Pradama Kanda. Kene shitam patati proshitam manaha.
Kene shitam
Keneshitam
patati
patati
preshitam
preshitam manaha.
manaha.
Kenaf pranaf prathamaf praiti yuktaha.
Kena
Kena
prana
pranah
prathama
prathamah praiti
praiti
yuktaha.
yuktaha.
Kene shitam vacham imam vadanti.
Kene shitam
Keneshitam
vacham
vachamimam
imam
vadanti.
vadanti.
Chakshushrotram ka udevo yunakti.
Chakshushrotram
Chakshushrotranka
devo
udevo yunakti.
yunakti.
Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yad.
Shrotrasya
Shrotrasya
shrotram
shrotram
manaso
manaso
mano
mano yad.
yad.
Vachoha vacham sa upranasya pranaha.
Vacho
Vacho
havacham
havacham sa upranasya
sapranasya
pranaha.
pranaha.
Chakshurati mukya dhiraha.
Chakshuscha chakshurti muchyadhiraha.
Chakshushrotidhiraha.
Pretyasma lokat amrita bhavanti.
Yasmalokadasmritaः amritaः bhavanti.
So you must learn to break the words even as you mentally as you chant. Chakshush, chakshuhu, atimuchya dhiraha. Chakshusha, chakshuhu, atimuchya dhiraha. And pretya, asmat, lokat, amrita bhavanti. So all the sandhi breakups by now should be, even if you don't know Sanskrit, at least you should be having the idea, right? So pretya, asmat, the la is because there's a sandhi, asmat, lokat, amrita bhavanti. Okay, so in the last class, we talked about two words, two important words. What were they in the first mantra?
Ishitam Preshitam.
And what was the reason why
Ishitam,
they were important?
because Ishitam means blessed by, and Preshitam refers to commanded by.
Right. So when you use the word preshitam, a doubt might arise whether there is a karta, because a commandment is being given. While when you use the word ishitam, bless, then the karta is not there. It's used in the sense of sanidhya matrena, in the sense of being present, in the presence of, right? So ultimately the idea conveyed is that the organs, the indriyas, they are functioning in the presence of Atma. Atma doesn't really do anything, but it provides the functionality for the organs to function in the way that they were designed to function. So just like electricity. So a fan functions in the way that it is designed to function when electricity is flowing through it, in the presence of electricity, in contact with the power. Similarly, the bulb functions in the way it is designed to function when it is in contact with power. So that's the idea being conveyed. And that was in the first mantra. So here, look at the words. First, I'll give you the meaning of the words. So, saha u. Saha means that. U is a participle, so conveying emphasis. Saha u, that indeed. Yat is the Atma. Right? And how is the Atma being defined here? Shrotrasya Shrotram. The ear of the ear. So the suffix asya. Shrotrasya means of the Shrotram. And Shrotram means year. So Shrotram Shrotrasya, the year of the year. Similarly, Manaha, Manasaha, the mind of the mind. Vacham, Havachaha, the speech of the speech. Pranasya Pranaha, the prana of the prana. Chakshushaha, Chakshuhu, the eye of the eye. So these are descriptions being given. And Dhiraha. Dhiraha is the wise person, the discriminative person. Atimuchya. Atimuchya means having crossed over. Having crossed over what? Having crossed over the body identification. What happens to him? Amrita bhavanti. He becomes immortal when asmat lokat pretya, after having left this world. Okay, so that is the brief meaning. And this is the key verse of the Kenopanishad. And the entire, in fact, the entire Upanishad is an expansion of this verse only. And through this mantra, the Shruti is trying to tell us that Atman is the principle. What principle? You have to remember the first verse where the student asked, what is that? Right? What is he asking about? So this is the principle about which the student is asking. And this principle is called by various names. We call it Atman, we call it Chaitanya Swarupam, we call it Chidatma, we call it Vijnanam, we call it Prajnanam. So many names are there, okay, depending upon which Upanishad we are looking at. What is this Atma? We have to recall what we have been talking about from day one, Tattva Bodha, Bhagavad Gita, all those you have to recall. And we talked about 5 attributes or 5 ways in which we describe that consciousness. Do you remember what they are? The 5 properties of consciousness, as we say, which really is a wrong, phrase. But what are those 5 properties?
I'm not a part, product, or
Property
property
of the body.
of the.
Okay.
In my presence, the body, I lend sentiency to the body, and I'm not bound by time or space. And when the body is no more, then I can't be recognized without the body, and I need the presence of the body to be recognized.
Good. Excellent, Nididhyasanam. So I am that consciousness. I am not a part, property, or product of that body. And I am an independent entity which pervades. And because of the pervasion, because of my presence, I enliven the body. I am not limited by the spatial or temporal boundaries of the body. I survive when the body dies. Only thing is, once the body dies, the medium of transaction, the reflecting medium, collapses. And therefore, I cannot transact anymore, right? I cannot be recognized also, but I continue to exist. And to discuss this, we talked about the nature of light, the nature of space, all these things are there. And so here he's saying, he's conveying the same idea, right? So remember that all the ideas have already been conveyed. In Tattva Bodha, we have done, one Upanishad we have done, Bhagavad Gita we have done. So all the ideas are already there with you. We are just repeating them again and again. So Shrotrasya Shrotram Manoso Manoyad. Shrotrasya Shrotram, that principle which blesses the ear, because of which the ear can function, that is called ear of the ear. Shrotrasya Shrotram. Similarly, Manaso Manaha, that principle because of which the mind can function, it is being called mind of the mind. Vachoha Vacham, the speech of the speech, or the mouth of the mouth. That principle because of which the tongue can talk, that is called Vachoha Vacham. That Atma is called Vachoha Vacham. Similarly, pranasya pranaha, that principle because of which the pranas are functioning in your body, chakshushaha chakshuhu, that principle because of which the eyes are able to see. So essentially, that principle in the presence of which all these organs are able to do their own functions, their respective functions, they are able to carry out only because of the presence of that consciousness existence principle, which is Atma. Right? Now you might ask, why are we talking about, for example, 2 ears or 2 eyes? Shrotrasya shrotram, chakshushaha chakshuhu. Shankara explains here that when you say something is of something, then you are pointing out that the first something is different from the second something. So when you say that year of the year, you are talking about 2 years. But 1 year is different from the other year. You are pointing out a relationship, right? Like saying, this is my laptop, right? So there is a relationship between the laptop and me, but the two objects are different. And by saying year of the year, the Acharya is saying that the second year, which is the Atman, is distinct from the first year, which is the Srotram, but that Atman also pervades the year. Just as, when I put up my hand, the light is pervading my hand because of which you can see my hand, but the light is distinct from the hand. That is the first idea being conveyed. And the second idea, also a most important idea, is because of this Atma alone, the ear is able to carry out its functions of hearing, of being a ear. The power to carry out its own function, that power doesn't belong to the ear. That power belongs to Atman. It is conferred by Atman. It's a blessing of Atman. Because of that blessing alone, every organ can function as the organ in the way in which it is designed to function. Right? So after this starts the Phalashruti, the benefit of the knowledge. So he says, Dhiraha. Dhiraha is a person who is a wise person, a discriminate person who has Viveka. And you have to remember the moment you say Viveka, you have to remember the definition in Tattva Bodha. The one who knows the distinction between Nitya Vastu and Anitya Vastu. So that Dhiraha, the person who knows the difference between Anatma and Atma, and therefore he takes the Atma as I. He takes himself to be Atma, and he takes the Anatma, the body-mind complex, as an incidental medium for transactions only. So that Dhiraha Atimuchya. Atimuchya means he has gone over, he has crossed over, he has transcended. What has he transcended? By knowing that this body-mind sense complex is an incidental transactional medium, that knowledge itself has enabled him to transcend that body-mind sense complex, because he now claims himself as the consciousness principle. Therefore, the transcending is always a mental event, intellectual event. It is never a physical event. The transcending of the body-mind complex is always in terms of understanding that I am that consciousness principle, because of which the body-mind complex is able to function. Therefore, when I say Aham Brahma Asmi, that Aham, it refers to what? It refers to the all-pervading consciousness existence principle. At the same time, remember that I have to use the Anatma, the body, mind, sense complex, to say the words Aham Brahmasmi. That even though you have transcended the body, you are using the body to utter the words Aham Brahmasmi, right? But when you say, I'm using the body to say, I am Brahman, and therefore the contradiction can come. How can I use the body and say I'm not the body? But that's the critical point. When I say I'm the body, I'm Brahman, I am using the body to say I am Brahman. But in the definition of I, when I say I am Brahman, I have excluded the body from the meaning of the word I. So this exclusion of the body from the meaning of the word I, even while using the body to say I, that is the meaning of transcending the body. That's a very, very important idea to understand. And therefore, the implied meaning of the word I has to be used. The lakshyartham. Lakshyartham of I is Atma only. The lakshyartham of I is immortal. The vachyartham, the direct meaning of I, is the body-mind complex. So lakshyartham, the lakshyartha I is always immortal. The vachyartha I is subject to death, is subject to mortality. This understanding that whenever I use the word I in lakshyartha, I am immortal, that understanding alone is called Jivan Mukti. And in the understanding is also embedded the understanding that when I say I am transacting anything, I am eating, I am talking, I am using the word I as vachyartha. And therefore, those transactions, they are all within the realm of mortality. But the person who is powering that, the lakshyartha I am beyond mortality. And also to understand that once the prarabdha is exhausted, that body will fall. So once I have got this idea that I am Jivan Muktaha, remember that after that, Videha Mukti is only a question of time, because once prarabdha is exhausted, the body falls, and that is called Videha Mukti. And therefore, mantra says, Asmat Lokat Pretya. Asman Lokat Pretya. Pretya means having left. Asman Lokat, this world, having left this world, Amritaha Bhavanti, he becomes immortal. The sadhaka who has understood that whenever he says I, it is the vachyartha I is not being used. It is only the lakshyartha I that is talking about. That lakshyartha I, in that sense, he becomes one with Paramatma. He becomes immortal. And this is Videha Mukti. So it's a very beautiful verse. You have talked about the nature of Atman. You have talked about Atmajnanam. You have talked about Jivan Mukti. And you have talked about Videha Mukti. All the ideas have been spoken about in this one verse. Now a Purvapakshi comes up. Or you can think of it as a student also. So he says, when you say Srotrasya Srotram, the year of the year, how am I supposed to understand? Because everybody experiences only 1 year. Nobody has 2 years. So what is the meaning of the other Srotram? So this just means that the student has not really understood the teacher. And so Shankara here comments saying that the year is capable of revealing objects which are its field of transaction. So what is the object which is in the field of transaction of the year? All sounds, right? Any sound is the field of transaction of the year. So Shankara says, Srotram, the year, is capable of revealing sounds to you. But there is a problem. And what is the problem? The power to reveal the sounds, that is to say, the revealing power of the year, it is not intrinsic to the year. It is not an intrinsic function to the year. And I'll use the words which Shankara uses in his Bhashyam. He says, Chaitanye sati bhavati. That year can perform its functions of revealing sounds, Chaitanya sati, only in the presence of Chaitanya. That the power of the year to reveal sounds to you, that power functions, is manifested only in the presence of consciousness. And what is that consciousness? Consciousness is nityam, eternal, and asamhatam. Asamhatam means not part of the complex, not part of the product. What is the product? The body, mind, sense complex. So clearly, Shankara is pointing out that consciousness principle is that because of which the ear is functioning, and that consciousness principle does not belong to the body, mind, sense complex or the ear itself, right? So remember, of course, that even though this is a definition of Chaitanyam, and very often when we talk about Atma or Chaitanyam, we say Atma is consciousness, right? What do we say? Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Now, it's a very subtle point. Really speaking, though it is very common for us as teachers, as students, advanced students, to talk about Atma in this manner, that's Sat Chit Ananda, right? Consciousness, existence, bliss principle. But really speaking, Shruti cannot ever give a definition of Atma as consciousness, right? Why? It's a very subtle argument. That remember that when I say Sat and Chit, they are all pada, they are all words. And words do what? They reveal objects. And if I am using the word consciousness to reveal Atma, then there arises a possibility that you will go by the idea that words reveal objects. And therefore, when teacher says consciousness is Atma, you will look for an object called Atma, right? So that idea is to be dismissed. And that's why here it is being said that objects are revealed in the presence of Atma. The ear is revealing its object sound in the presence of Atma. Don't ever look for Atma as an object, because it is in the presence of Atma that all the Indriyas function. And we have seen this idea before. So there is Shruti support in, for example, the Upanishad which we have done. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Where did you see that?
Mundaka.
Yeah. Okay. So what does it mean? Tasya bhasa, because of its light, sarvam idam vibhati. Everything here is revealed. Same idea that Atma reveals other things. Of course, not directly, but because it enables all the Indriyas to function. So, Tasya Bhasa, the power of the Atma, the revealing power of the Atma, Sarvam idam vibhati, is the reason why your organs can reveal any of the entities which belong to the range of function of the organs. So the eyes can reveal form and color, the tongue can reveal taste, the skin can reveal touch, all because of that consciousness principle alone. So that Mundaka Upanishad mantra is supporting. And also there is a Gita sloka. Yadaditya gatam tejaha jagad bhasyate akhilam yat chandramasi yachagno tat tejo vidhi mamakam. The 15th chapter, the Krishna says, Yat aditya gatam tejaha. That light which is in the sun, and akhilam jagat bhasyate, that light which is in the sun, which reveals the entire universe. Similarly, yat chandramasi yat chagnavati, that tetat tejaha, the light which is there in the moon and the light which is there in the fire, which reveals objects also. What should you understand? Tat tejaha mamakam vidhi. Understand that it belongs to me alone. So Krishna there is talking as Atma, as the consciousness principle. He's saying wherever you see any revealing power of any organ, remember that, or any entity, remember that that revealing power is always borrowed from me, because I am the original Atma, the consciousness principle. There's one more, sloka which is in Gita. Kshetram Kshetri Tatha Kritsnam Prakashayati Bharata. So that is the 13th chapter. I think it is the 30 odd verse, 30, 32 verse, 33rd verse maybe. So just as the sun, Kritsnam Prakashyati Bharata, just as the sun illumines the whole Jagat, the Kshetri, the consciousness principle, illumines the entire Kshetram. And if you remember, Kshetram was matter and Kshetri was consciousness principle. So several slokas are there, mantras are there also, which talk about the same idea which is being talked about in this mantra. And Shankara sums it up very nicely in a nutshell. He says, there is something. So, kimapi asti, he says, there is something called Atma, which cannot be really described, but which is understood by the subtle intellect of a person, of a shishya, who is an adhikari, who is sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. If he has got that capacity, if he has done karma yoga, upasana yoga, shravanam, mananam, then his intellect has been sufficiently refined for him to understand that this principle is there, because of which everything functions. But even though that principle cannot be described. And he says that principle is sarva antara tamam. So it's a very nice word. Sarva antara tamam. Tamam is a prefix which indicates the superlative. Sarva antara means innermost to everything. So sarva antara tamam is the innermost essence of everything. And Shankara uses a few adjectives to describe. He says kuthastham. You have seen this before. Kuthastham means what?
It's an anvil.
It's an anvil. So what idea is being conveyed?
It stays there. It doesn't move. It
doesn't move is okay. That's not the real idea. What is the speciality of an anvil?
The
Hello, Ravi ji, may I try?
Please, Nataraj.
Even if the hammer falls on the anvil, nothing happens to the anvil. Anvil doesn't change.
Correct. So avyayam, changeless. And therefore this Atma, which is the innermost essence of everybody, is kuthastham, changeless. And he uses a few other adjectives. Ajam. Ajama means without birth, beginningless. Ajaram. Ajaram means it does not get old. Jara is old age. Ajaram does not get old. Amritam. It is not subject to death. Abhayam. It is always secure, never subject to fear, fearless. And such an Atma, he says, Shrotrader api Shrotradihi. Such an Atma is called the ear of the ear. Why? Because the capacity of the ear to function is simply because the Atma is present. So Tat Samarthya Nimittam is the word he uses. Tat Samarthya means that capability of the ear to function as the ear, Nimittam, is dependent upon the presence of the Atma. So again, pointing out the fact Atma is not a karta. So Preshitam is to be diluted with Ishitam. In the presence only, Sanidhi Matrena. And this is the idea that is being conveyed. With this, the discussion on Shrotrasya Shrotam is over. And of course, you have to extend the same discussion, the same commentary to Manaha, Vachaha, Pranaha, and Chakshu. We are not doing that here. You're all senior students. You'll be able to extend that argument which we have done for Shrotrasya Shrotam to Vachaha, the tongue, Manaha, the mind, Pranaha, and Chakshu, the ears. Okay. Now, I did mention earlier that this is one of the Upanishads, in fact, probably the only Upanishad, where Shankaracharya has written two bhashyams. One is called Pada Bhashyam, which is which means word-to-word commentary, right? That is, we base most of our explanations on his Padabhashyam only. But he's written something called Vakya Bhashyam. So he thought it important enough. He thought that this Upanishad was important enough to warrant two commentaries. And he has written another Bhashyam called Vakya Bhashyam. So in a Vakya Bhashyam, as the name implies, Vakyam means sentence. He doesn't go word to word. He goes sentence to sentence. So in his Vakya Bhashyam, Shankara says that the expression of Srotrasya Srotram is to indicate that Atma is Nimitta Karanam. So Nimittam means what? A passive contributor to the functioning of the organ. That is, it is Sannidhi Matrena, because of its presence only. And he gives a reason. And it is so because Atma is not capable of having any changes, no vikriyas. No changes can take place in Atma, therefore it cannot directly contribute. And therefore he says, the perceiving power of, or the hearing power of the ear is to be understood as the consciousness in the ear, which is in the form of the hearing power. It is because of the consciousness that the latent hearing power, the potential hearing power of the ear is manifested, right? The ear has potential hearing power. That potential can be converted, can be manifested, can come into operation only when consciousness is present. And therefore he says very nicely that the consciousness itself in the ear can be thought of as the hearing power of the ear. And of course he says that consciousness in the ear, which means to say the perceiving power of the ear is dependent upon the consciousness, and therefore the hearing power of the ear is anityam, while the power of the Atma to lend that operation, that functioning, that is nityam. So the power of consciousness which enables the ear to function is eternal. However, the power of the ear to hear is temporary. It is anityam because the ear itself is matter and it is anityam. And therefore, you see, he ends up by saying that the word Srotrasya, Srotram, etc., Manasa, Manaha, Pranaha, Panaha, Pranaha, in this mantra, it should be taken as that Atma which lends the power of functioning to individual organs. So with that, that mantra is over. So we will look at the third mantra. We will chant. So please unmute yourself. Let us chant. Na tatra chakshurgacchati.
न तत्र चक्षुर्गच्छति
Na vaggacchati.
न वाग्गच्छति
No manaha.
नो मनः
Na vidmo na vijanimaha.
विद्मो न विजानीमः
Yathaitad anushishyat.
यथैतद् अनुशिष्यात्.
Okay. So the idea conveyed here is that we are dealing with the Atma, and defining the Atma or explaining the Atma is a very difficult task. Because until we come to Vedanta, our intellect is used to dealing with objects, objective sciences, which can be seen by the ear, seen by the eye, although grasped by the indriyas. But here, you are coming across something which is not capable of being grasped by any of the indriyas. So he says, na tatra chakshuhu gacchati. Literally meaning the ear, the eye does not reach there. Of course, means that The eye cannot see the Atman. And eye here is a representative of all the Jnanendriyas. So here he's saying that none of the Jnanendriyas can grasp the Atman. When you say I, you should not stop at I. You should take it as all, representative of all the Jnanendriyas. So na tatra chakshur gacchati, na tatra Jnanendriya gacchati. No Jnanendriya can grasp the Atman. Right? So Jnanendriya agocharam. Atman is Jnanendriya agocharam, not capable of being recognized by the Jnanendriyas. Then Navag gacchati. Vag is tongue, so Karmendriya. So here is saying that words cannot describe the Atman. So idea is that when your Jnanendriya itself cannot conceive of the Atman, how can you use words to describe it? So unless the concept is there, descriptions cannot be there. Therefore, Vak here again represents all the Karmendriyas. So these two sentences, na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, they mean that the Atman is Jnanendriya agocharam, not capable of being grasped by the Jnanendriyas, and Karmendriya agocharam, not capable of being grasped by the Karmendriyas. You cannot touch the Atman. And na manaha, the mind also cannot grasp. Why does he bring the mind into this? Because the mind can conceive of emotions, which is not available to Jnanendriyas, which is not available to Karmendriyas. So three functions are being talked about: Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, and the mind. So mind cannot grasp emotion. Mind can grasp emotions, which the Indriyas cannot. But even that mind cannot conceive of this Atman. The mind also cannot objectify the Atman, if such a word exists. Objectification, meaning convert into an object of knowledge. Prameyam, to use the in Hindi word, or the Sanskrit word. And therefore the teacher says, na vidmaha. He says, that Atma is not known. I don't know that Atma. And therefore, I cannot communicate. So he says, yatha anushishyat na vijanimaha. I don't know how anybody can communicate that Atma, because na vidmaha, the Atma itself is not known. Okay, it's a very beautiful way of saying. Remember, when you say I don't know, you have to immediately understand the word know normally implies there is an object of knowledge. So there is a pramanam, there is a pramata, and there is a prameyam. Right? So in that way, I don't know the Atma. You see the difference? When you say I don't know the Atma, you are saying that I don't know the Atma as an object different from me. That is what teacher is saying. It is not possible for the Atma to be known as someone or something separate from me, because I am the Atma. And therefore, normally communication is in respect of an object which is different from me. And therefore he says, yatha anushishyat na vijanimaha. I don't know how to communicate about the Atma. And Shankara gives a couple of examples to explain this. So he says, Agni has two basic functions. What are they? Burning or heat and light. Right? But he says, even though Agni has two powers, to burn and to light up, that Agni cannot burn itself or light itself. So you never use the sentence, the fire is illumining itself, or the fire is burning itself. Right? Why? Because the word illumine and the word burn, both are verbs, both refer to actions. And every action has a beginning and an end, but the heat and the light are intrinsic to the fire. So you cannot say that fire is the burning power of fire has a beginning or has an end. Or you cannot say that the lighting power of fire has a beginning or an end. So no verb can be used here because heat and light are swabhavaha, the very nature of fire. Shankara says in that same way, this argument has to be extended to Brahman. And when we talk about the mind has two functions. One is visualizing, right? And one is, the visualizing is a function of the mind, of the manasaha. And also it has the power of determination. So, which is, analysis, ascertainment. That is a function of the intellect. So he says that this mind, therefore, has these two functions in respect of objects other than the mind, other than itself. And that being so, the mind cannot visualize or determine the Atma. In other words, the mind cannot, present to you the Atma as an object. Why? Because Atma is the very inner essence of the mind, in the sense that it is because of Atma that the mind itself is able to function. And that being so, it cannot exercise that function, because the moment you say, I am able to visualize the Atma, you are doing the same argument as saying fire is beginning to burn. There is no beginning or end to this capacity. It is intrinsic. The intrinsic power of the mind is conferred by the Atma. The power of visualizing or determination is conferred by the Atma, and therefore the mind will not be able to either visualize or determine the Atma's nature. Now, there is a second line here. Na vidmo na vijanimaha yathetad anushishyat. Which really means to say, which really when you use that word, it says, I don't know how this can be explained. This is simply saying that I don't know how Atma can be explained. And if the teacher says that, then the student may think that it is because of the fact that the teacher himself doesn't know, the inadequacy of the knowledge of the Acharya. And therefore Shankara wants to keep that idea away. And therefore he says, whenever or whatever object can be revealed by a jnanendriya, right? Yadhi karana gocharam. Whatever object can be revealed by jnanendriyas, he says only such an object can be taught, can be explained to others. Very, very, important idea. You can teach to somebody only that which is available to your jnanendriyas. What is the basis for this idea? So we may have discussed this in earlier classes, but I will just, summarize it once more. There is something called Shabda Pravarti Nimittani. Nimittani means conditions. Shabda Pravarti means the activity of words. What is the activity of words? To describe. So Shabda Pravarti means description or describing, words being used to describe something. Nimittani is conditions. So Shabda Pravarti Nimittani means those conditions under which words can be used to describe an object. Does anybody remember what are these conditions? Okay. We may have discussed only very passingly, so I'll explain again. There are 5 conditions. One is called jati. So jati is a generic description, universal description. For example, you point to a man and you say human, or you point to a girl and you say human, right? So it's generic. Once I have seen a few humans, I will be able to classify any human being under this jati, generic description, human, right? You can have anything else, right? Car is there, or a motor vehicle is there. So you can act specific description of a car. All cars belong to this kind of a description. Or you can say vehicle, anything moving belongs to a description of vehicle. All these are jati, generic descriptions. So you can use words to describe an object in terms of jati, right? In terms of generic description. Animal is one, so reptile is another, human is third. Okay. Then you can use guna. Guna means attribute. So you can say, for example, white hair. I am communicating, I'm saying that person with white hair. So I am communicating the object to you using the guna, the white hair, type of hair, right? So jati and guna. The third one is kriya, based on function. So I can say this person is an accountant, or this person is a cook, this person is a driver, or this person is a teacher. So you can use the kriya also to communicate an object. Then you can use sambandha, the relationships. So you can say he is father, mother, sister, brother. So you can describe, using words can be used to describe an object using these various classes: jati, guna, kriya, sambandha. And you can use the fifth one is called rudihi, also called dravyam. Dravyam simply means matter. Rudihi, which is based upon your own experience. For example, if you say this is the moon to somebody, right? That is based on my experience of having seen the moon. It doesn't depend upon jati, guna, kriya, sambandha. So it is an experience which is common to the one who is speaking and the one who is listening. And based on the experience, some name has been given. Therefore, it is based on pratyaksham. For someone who has never seen the moon, the word moon doesn't communicate anything. And therefore, it is based on experience-based classification. So these are the 5 called Shabda Pravarti Nimittani. What are they? Jati, Gunaha, Kriyaha, Sambandhaha, Rudihi. Any object can be pointed out if it falls into one of these 5. And Shankara says Brahman doesn't fall under any of these 5. Therefore, it is not possible to teach Brahman through any conventional means of teaching, because of the rule that he has given, saying that only an object which can be revealed by a Jnanendriya can be taught using Shabda Pravarti Nimittani, can be described using the conditions under which words can be used for describing. Okay. Any questions so far? All right.
Acharya ji, you were explaining that when we say I am Brahman, you have to transcend the I factor from the body, mind sense complex to the Brahman. And there were certain words I couldn't understand clearly. If you can just repeat it once and try to focus more.
What words now? I have forgotten what words I've used.
I think I'll go with the recording once. I'll listen to it carefully and then I'll
Put it in the
ask.
group. Yeah, that's good.
Ji.
Okay.
Thank you, Acharya.
All right. So we will now look at the 4th mantra. We will chant. Anyadeva tadviditad.
Anyadeva
Vidat,
Atho avititad adhihi.
Atho aviditadadhi.
vidat, adhi.
Iti shushrama purvesham.
Iti shushruma purvesham.
Yenastad vyachachakshire.
Yenastadvyachachakshire.
Again, one of the very important slokas. I'll just give you the word meaning first, and then if we have time, we'll go into the discussion. So, iti shushrumaha. That is second line, first 2 words. Iti shushrumaha purvesham. Purvesham means people who are in the past, ancient teachers, earlier teachers. So, iti Purvesham Shushrumaha. Shushrumaha means having heard. So we have heard remember this is the teacher talking. Okay. So he is saying that we have heard the following teaching from our teachers. Right. And who are those teachers? Ye, those people, Vyacha Chakshire, who revealed Tat Brahman, that Brahman, Naha. Right? So that Tat Naha. They have revealed that Brahman to us. And what was that Brahman? How did they reveal? Tat eva anyat viditat. They said that Brahman is different from Tat eva anyat. Tat here refers to Brahman. That Brahman eva anyat is different from viditat. Viditat means known. Is different from the known. Ataha, and also Adhi is different from aviditat, the unknown. A very beautiful statement. The teachers have revealed Brahman to us. So Acharya himself is saying that teachers have revealed Brahman to us as what? That which is different from a known object and that which is different from an unknown object. Right? So tad viditat anyat eva. So he is saying that Brahman is something other than a known object. Right? Now, here we have to understand very carefully that known object, under the word known, you have to also include capable of being known. Okay. Because you can say that I know the moon, but I don't know some galaxy. Right? But that galaxy is capable of being known. Therefore, here, when you say viditat, known object, he is saying that it also includes anything which is capable of being known. And tad viditat anyat, by saying anyat eva, he is negating that which is known. That Atman, that Brahman, is something other than that which is known. So you have to say that other than that which is known or knowable. Okay. Right. So, for example, when you say that I ask you what books you have read, right? You will give some answer. And when I say what books have you not read, remember it means what books you can read, right? So in the category of known and unknown, atho aviditad adi, different from the unknown. So in the category of the known and the unknown, you have to include, when you say known and unknown, it means that which is knowable alone. That which is other than unknown. So you remember these words are there. Other than known, other than unknown. So when you take the word known and unknown, you are saying something which you know and something which you don't know. Under the don't know, you are including what is knowable. You don't know, but it's possible to know, right? And therefore, when you say known, unknown, together when the two words are used, you are saying that which is knowable is the categorization. So Brahman is other than something which is knowable. That is what is being mentioned there, right? Because you're saying other than unknown and other than known. So other than known, other than unknown means other than that which is known, other than that which is knowable. Therefore, it means that which is not knowable, right? So what the teacher is saying is that Atma is neither the known nor is it something which is knowable. This idea has to be understood. It is not that Atma is not known and Atma is not something which is known and not something which is unknown. What is being said is that Atma is not known definitely, but also what is being said that Atma is that which is not knowable at all. Why is that so? Because the Atma is the knower. The knower can never know himself, right? The knower is never the object of his own knowledge. And since Atma is the knower principle, the very attempt to, inverted commas, know the Atma is a basic mistake because it is not an object of knowledge. And thus, by this definition, the teacher is indicating the Mahavakyam. What is that? Tattvamasi. That you are that Atma, right? So this kind of handing over the knowledge from the teacher to the student is called Sampradaya. That the Guru hands the knowledge to the Shishya further hands, Shishya becomes a Guru later on. He hands it to the other Shishya. So a lineage is formed. Acharya, Shishya. That lineage is called Sampradaya. We saw the word in Bhagavad Gita also. And that's why he says here, Iti Sushruma Purvesham. I have got this method of communication from my previous Acharyas, Purvesham. And what did that Acharya do? Yetat Naha Vyachachakshire. They successfully communicated this knowledge to us. So again, an idea being conveyed is that the one who does not have a teacher can never be a teacher. The teaching has to come through the Guru Shishya Parampara. The Parampara, of course, because the Parampara is there, the emphasis will shift to the lineage. The Parampara is predominant and not a particular Acharya. No Acharya is ever greater than the tradition. So that's the difference between a cult and a Sampradaya. That's why he says, this teacher who taught me, he taught me that Brahman is neither known nor is it knowable. Why? That we have to see the later mantras. It basically means that Brahman is the very knower himself. That is why it can neither be known nor is it knowable. So with this, we'll stop for the day. Any questions? Nothing is new in this teaching. There's just different words giving you different viewpoints, but conveying the basic essential teaching that you are Brahman, and that Brahman, the only way of knowing, when you say word know here, remember it means knowing as an object of knowledge. And that is not possible because you are the knower itself. The knower can never know himself as an object. Or in other words, the subject can never become the object. That is what is being mentioned.
Acharya ji, in the previous mantra, the second line, there is a word Ati Muchya Dhiraha.
Yeah.
So Muchya itself refers to liberation. So Ati Muchya.
No, here Ati Muchya means crossover.
Okay.
Ati Muchya Dhira. What does he cross over? He crosses over the body identification.
Okay. Thank you.
Acharya, what does Anushishyat mean? Is it the Sampradaya and teaching from Guru to Shishya?
Anushishya really means revealing. So when he says Navijani Maha Yatha Anushishyat, he is saying, I don't know really how anybody can teach you Brahman. And in that word, he is saying, I don't know really how anybody can explain Brahman as an object to you. Because he is explaining what you are, not as an object. So all he can tell you is Tattvamasi, that you are Brahman. Anushishyat means revealing.
Thank you.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Shivaya.